Socrates, the courage to question, the human question. Why do humans fear difficult questions? Not questions with easy answers, but questions that challenge belief. Questions that disturb certainty. Questions that reveal ignorance. Questions that force the mind to pause. Most people believe questioning leads to knowledge, but history shows something more complicated. Questioning often leads first to discomfort. Because when a question is asked carefully, it does something powerful. It exposes assumptions. Ideas that once felt stable suddenly require explanation. Words that once sounded confident must now become precise. And when a person cannot explain what they claim to know, a strange moment appears. Confidence collapses. Not because the person is foolish, but because the belief was never examined. This is the quiet danger of untested knowledge. People can live many years believing they understand something without ever investigating it deeply. Nearly 25 centuries ago, one man dedicated his life to confronting this problem. His method was simple. He asked questions, not to embarrass others, not to appear intelligent, but to reveal how the human mind confuses certainty with understanding. His name was Socrates. He left behind no books, no written doctrine, no formal school in his name. Yet his influence shaped nearly all of Western philosophy. To understand why questioning became his mission, we must first understand the world he lived in. The historical mind environment. The city where Socrates lived was Athens. At the time, Athens was one of the most intellectually active places in the ancient world. Ideas were not hidden in private rooms. They were debated in public spaces. Markets, courtyards, and streets were filled with discussion about justice, virtue, power, and knowledge. Citizens argued openly about how society should function and what it meant to live well. But with this freedom of discussion came another phenomenon. Persuasion became a skill. Teachers known as sophists trained young men to speak convincingly in public debates. Winning arguments became more valuable than discovering truth. A person who spoke confidently could appear wise, even if their ideas were shallow. Language began to serve reputation more than understanding. A clever speaker could persuade crowds. An eloquent argument could defeat a careful one. And gradually, the ability to sound knowledgeable started replacing the discipline of actually being knowledgeable. This created a strange environment. People believed they understood justice, courage, and virtue. But when asked to define them clearly, their explanations often collapsed. Opinion was everywhere. Clarity was rare. It was inside this atmosphere of confident uncertainty that Socrates began walking the streets of Athens, speaking with citizens, not as a teacher giving lectures, but as a questioner. To understand why he chose this path, we must look at the man behind the questions. The human behind the questioner. Socrates did not look like the philosophers people imagined. He was not elegant, not wealthy, not formally polished. Ancient descriptions portray him as physically ordinary, even unattractive, but his presence was unforgettable. He spent much of his time walking through Athens, not teaching from a platform, not writing books. Instead, he spoke directly with people in everyday places, markets, streets, public gatherings. He approached soldiers, craftsmen, politicians, poets, and young students, and he asked them questions. Socrates believed something unusual. Wisdom begins with recognizing ignorance. Many people claim knowledge, but very few examine what they actually know. According to tradition, a famous event helped define his mission. A friend of Socrates visited the oracle at Delphi and asked who the wisest man in Athens was. The response was unexpected. The oracle declared that no one was wiser than Socrates. When Socrates heard this, he was confused. He did not believe himself wise. So he began investigating the statement. He approached those who were considered wise, politicians, poets, craftsmen, and questioned them about their knowledge. What he discovered surprised him. Many spoke confidently about ideas they had never examined carefully. Socrates reached a quiet conclusion. If he possessed any wisdom at all, it was simply this: he knew that he did not know. From this realization, his mission became clear: not to teach people what to think, but to help them examine how they think. The problem he saw. Socrates observed a strange contradiction in human behavior. People claimed certainty about the most important questions in life. What is justice? What is courage? What is virtue? What is a good life? Yet when asked to explain these ideas clearly, their answers often collapsed under simple questioning. A politician might speak confidently about justice, but when asked what justice actually meant, the definition would shift. A soldier might claim to understand courage, but when examined closely, the explanation would reveal contradictions. Words sounded solid, but the thinking beneath them was fragile. Socrates saw the danger in this. When people believe they understand something they have never examined, they stop searching. False certainty becomes the enemy of wisdom. Ignorance alone is not dangerous. A person who knows they are ignorant can still learn. But ignorance that believes itself to the knowledge becomes resistant to correction. Socrates believed this condition was widespread. Society rewarded confidence, not clarity. Reputation often mattered more than understanding. And because people feared appearing ignorant, they avoided the very questions that could help them grow wiser. So he chose a different approach. Instead of presenting answers, he asked questions that slowly revealed contradictions. He did not attack people. He examined ideas. From this method emerged one of the most powerful tools in the history of thinking. The central idea: wisdom begins with questioning. Socrates did not claim to possess perfect knowledge. Instead, he introduced a radical starting point for wisdom. Recognize the limits of what you know. His famous statement captures this idea: I know that I know nothing. This was not an expression of defeat. It was a declaration of intellectual honesty. Socrates understood that the mind cannot learn while it believes it already understands. Certainty closes the door to investigation, but curiosity opens it. For Socrates, questioning was not destructive, it was constructive. A question reveals the structure of an idea. If the structure is strong, it becomes clearer. If the structure is weak, it collapses. Either outcome moves the mind closer to truth. This approach required patience. Instead of delivering lectures, Socrates guided conversations step by step. Each answer invited another question. Each definition was tested. Each assumption examined. Through this process, people often discovered something surprising. Their beliefs were less stable than they imagined. But this discovery was not humiliation. It was the beginning of understanding. For Socrates, wisdom did not mean possessing all answers. It meant living with the discipline of examination. To support this discipline, he developed a powerful method of thinking. The method of questioning. Socrates developed a simple but powerful method. Today it is known as the Socratic Method. It does not begin with answers. It begins with questions. The method works through a sequence. First, a claim is presented. Someone might say, justice means giving people what they deserve. Socrates would respond with a question. What does deserve mean? When the person attempted to clarify, another question would follow. If someone believes they deserve something harmful, should justice give it to them? Each answer revealed a new layer. Each layer exposed hidden assumptions. The goal was not to trap the speaker, it was to test the idea. If the idea survived examination, it became stronger. If contradictions appeared, the idea required revision. This process forced the mind to move slowly. Definitions became precise. Assumptions became visible. Beliefs were no longer accepted simply because they sounded convincing. Through careful questioning, Socrates guided people to discover their own misunderstandings, not through authority, but through reasoning. This method remains one of the most important tools in education, because it teaches a skill more valuable than memorization: how to think clearly. But this way of questioning did not make Socrates popular with everyone. Why people resisted him? Socrates did not insult people. He did not shout. He did not attack others personally. He only asked questions. Yet many people felt threatened by him. Because questioning does something uncomfortable. It removes the protection of confident language. When someone is asked to explain their ideas clearly, their reputation can suddenly feel exposed. A politician who claims wisdom must now define it. A teacher who claims knowledge must now demonstrate it. A leader who claims virtue must now explain it. Many people admired Socrates for this, but others felt embarrassed by the conversations he created. Public questioning could reveal that a respected person did not understand their own claims. Over time, irritation grew. Some began to accuse Socrates of corrupting the youth, not because he taught immoral behavior, but because he encouraged young people to question authority and tradition. Eventually, the tension reached its peak. Socrates was brought to trial in Athens. The official accusations were corrupting the youth and disrespecting the city's traditional beliefs. The trial was less about crime and more about discomfort. A society that values certainty can become uneasy when someone constantly reveals uncertainty. Socrates refused to abandon his method. He argued that questioning and examining life was a duty. Without examination, he believed, people live unthinkingly. The court found him guilty. He was sentenced to death. Socrates accepted the sentence calmly, choosing to drink poison rather than abandon his principles. His death revealed something profound about the power of questions. Even when a questioner disappears, the questions remain. The Mother Mirror. Why questioning still matters. The world today is different from ancient Athens, but the human mind remains similar. People still hold strong opinions about justice, truth, morality, and success. Yet many of these beliefs are inherited rather than examined. Ideas pass through families, schools, cultures, and media, often repeated long before they are understood. Questioning can still feel uncomfortable. A simple question, why do we believe this, can disrupt an entire conversation. Not because the question is aggressive, but because it invites deeper thinking. In many environments today, speed has replaced reflection. Opinions spread quickly. Judgments appear instantly. Reactions happen before understanding. The habit of careful questioning becomes rare. But the lesson of Socrates remains powerful. A society that stops questioning its beliefs risks confusing confidence with knowledge. And an individual who never examines their ideas risks living according to assumptions they never chose. Questioning does not weaken understanding. It strengthens it. Ideas that survive examination become clearer and more reliable. So the practical question becomes, how can a person apply this discipline in daily life? The discipline practice training the questioning mind. Socrates did not teach people to doubt everything. He taught them to examine carefully, because questioning without discipline becomes chaos, but questioning with discipline becomes wisdom. His approach can be practiced through simple habits of thought. First, define what you mean. Many disagreements exist only because words remain vague. Before defending an idea, ask yourself, what exactly do I mean by this? How would I explain it clearly to someone else? Precision reveals understanding. Second, test your assumptions. When you believe something strongly, pause and ask, how do I know this is true? What evidence supports it? Could there be another explanation? This does not weaken belief, it strengthens it. Third, welcome correction. If a question exposes a mistake in your thinking, treat it as progress. The goal of questioning is not to win arguments, it is to approach truth more closely. Fourth, examine your own life. Socrates believed philosophy was not an abstract activity, it was personal. He expressed it in one of his most famous reflections. The unexamined life is not worth living. To examine life means asking, why do I value what I value? Why do I pursue what I pursue? What kind of person am I becoming? These questions guide the direction of a life. Through this discipline, the mind becomes less reactive and more thoughtful. Not louder, but clearer. And from this practice emerges the final reflection about Socrates' legacy. Closing reflection: the duty of examination. Socrates never wrote a book. He built no institution. He left behind no written doctrine. Yet his influence shaped centuries of philosophy. Because he changed something deeper than information. He changed how people approach knowledge. Before Socrates, wisdom was often treated as something possessed. After Socrates, wisdom became something examined. He showed that the mind grows stronger not by defending belief, but by investigating it. Questions reveal the strength of ideas. And when ideas collapse under examination, new understanding can begin. His life also revealed something about courage. Not the courage of battle, but the courage of intellectual honesty. The willingness to say, I may be wrong, let us examine this together. A society that values questioning becomes more thoughtful. A mind that practices examination becomes more stable. Socrates did not promise certainty. He offered something more valuable, a lifelong commitment to inquiry. To question carefully is not to destroy belief, it is to refine it. That is how clarity grows. That is how wisdom develops. And that is why the examined mind remains one of humanity's greatest strengths. Human lessons from Socrates. Confidence is not the same as understanding. Question beliefs before defending them. Define ideas clearly before debating them. Ignorance recognized is the beginning of wisdom. Truth becomes stronger through examination. Intellectual humility strengthens learning. The unexamined life leads to unexamined decisions. Questions, when asked carefully, reveal deeper understanding. Of the gods. As within, so without. As above, so below. The Master of Mind. Subscribe to DeGods Archive and train your mind with the greatest thinkers in history.